My name is Lee Henderson. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the managing director of Teatro Visión. And welcome to La Hora del Mitote, which is our weekly live stream where we talk with different artists and activists and community members and invite all of you out there watching to join the conversation as well. Today, I'm really happy to be here with Vinita from EnActe Arts. EnActe Arts is a nonprofit performing arts organization that embraces Eastern and Western traditions of storytelling by developing and presenting thought-provoking stories that put South Asian voices in a global context. And as always, we want all of you out there to be a part of the conversation. So if you have comments you want to add, or if you have questions, or even if you just want to say hi, please do drop that in the chat on YouTube or Facebook, and we would love to hear from you. So Vinita, thank you so much for being here on La Hora del Mitote.
Thank you, Leigh, for inviting me. I feel so honored.
Well, we are delighted to have you. I know that you at EnActe Arts, you have a really important fundraising event, Artists for Aid, coming up. And I do want to for sure talk about that, but also just for the benefit of people out there who might not be familiar with EnActe Arts already. Can you start by just telling us a little bit about your mission and about your programs? And also, if you want to tell us a little about yourself and who you are as an artist.
I'm a bit of a fraud artist. I became an artist at the age of 50. Until then, I was a very boring engineer and a techie.
That doesn't make you a fraud. That's fabulous.
Well, you know, I did a lot of theater in my childhood, in my youth, and then of course I became an engineer, and I took a completely different path. And then at the age of 50, I realized that there was this big hole in my life that was making me less complete as a person, and so I gave up my tech job and started the theater company. But that wasn't really the only reason. You know, I came to the US first in 2000. And I was looking for, you know, theater companies to engage with, and it was just hard for me as an actor to find a space, you know, an identity for myself. And I thought, if I'm having this issue, then other people must be having it as well. And so I started looking into, you know, how many South Asian stories are part of the mix of storytelling that's happening in the US. And I realized that as immigrants, we are always telling stories in silos. You know, I mean, Indian stories are being told to Indian audiences by Indian theater companies, and similarly for others. And so I wanted to create a platform which was an open platform, which kind of truly reflects the demographic of the Bay Area that we live in, and tells the story of who we are in the moment, and also tells stories that give us pride in where we came from, so that, you know, we're able to balance both identities properly. And so that's what EnActe tries to do. You know, a lot of the contemporary programming, the new playwrights, we do a lot of new works. Almost everything that we do is either deeply traditional or very, very new. We don't really do anything that's kind of in between. And the new works, really, it aims to claim the South Asian voice in the context of everybody else, you know, and other diverse voices, not just South Asian. So there is this huge push for diversity in the storytelling. Then we do a lot of stories that are very deeply South Asian, that I hope, you know, audiences, all kinds of audiences will come and watch. And this is my way, of our way at EnActe, of showcasing the very vast and very rich cultural heritage of South Asia. You know, we've been telling stories for 4,000 years that are still being told today, more than 4,000 years actually. And we were telling stories before written language was invented. And so we've kind of perfected the art of storytelling, and those stories have lasted over 4 millennia. The next play that we're doing, Sitayana, is a story that's almost 5 millennia old, and it's being told today all over South Asia. So we're trying to do both. We're trying to bring the best of the culture and heritage that we have, and also take our place in contemporary theater, on contemporary stage, and connect with the community and reflect the community that we live in, really. Yeah. It's been very rewarding, and it's a lot of hard work. I don't think I worked as hard on any corporate job as I do in this job. And so my hat's off to every artistic director, executive director, every artist who works in arts management. But I learn a lot, and it's an incredible, incredible community that I'm really, really excited to be part of. And so we do three things at EnActe. Of course, we tell all these stories through theater, but we also have the EnActe School of Drama, where we teach theater to adults, to kids, and then in the conservatory program in a mixed, multi-generational, multi-ethnic environment. And then we use theater to connect with community. So we run theater programs for seniors in senior centers. We have a program called WEFT, which is a fellowship for women writers under the guidance of a guiding circle that we've put together. We have a new play development program where we workshop new plays. A lot of playwrights writing about South Asian issues that include South Asian actors would come to us with the first draft and say, can you help us find a director and actors to workshop it? So we're kind of an incubator that way. And yeah, and then sometimes, like in this moment, we have to put all of that art aside and address issues that are more fundamental to survival, and address them as artists. Yeah. So.
Wow. And you're a pretty new organization too, right? I mean, you've just accomplished a huge amount, I think, in a short amount of time.
Well, I just posted a picture of an empty stage on my Facebook page, and it is a photo of the Brava Theater exactly 8 years ago, where we opened our first play in the Bay Area. So yeah, we're 8 years old. We're actually 9 years old, because before that we had a traveling show across the US, which for a year and a half, we just traveled that one show. So yeah, but 10th anniversary next year.
That was exciting. Well, congratulations.
I believe we've come. It's been fun.
Well, I'm going to put up, this is your website. So any of you out there, if you want to learn more or get involved in any of the programs, I'm sure, watch the productions or learn about the classes, that's a good place to go to learn more. But let me pick up with what you were just ending with there, where you were saying you have to sometimes put aside your regular programming to, respond to urgent needs, because right now you're doing that right now, right? As I understand it, you've sort of paused all of that, and you're working on an Artists for Aid fundraiser that's raising funds to help address the COVID health crisis that's happening in India.
Yes.
Yeah. So what inspired you to do that? How did that come about?
It was very personal at EnActe. 1 minute we were doing all these incredible virtual productions, and we had collaborations with theatrical collaborations with theater companies in London and Mumbai and LA and New York. And the next minute we were just, our staff was reduced by like 60%, because all the Indian people, Indian origin people working with us, they were losing family members back home, including myself. And we just could not, somebody lost a father, somebody lost a father-in-law, somebody lost a grandfather. I lost a brother-in-law and a cousin. We lost dear friends. And India is a very vast country. And so, of course, there are big socioeconomic divides, and the people that we were losing are people who have very good jobs and are considered, well off, and they have full access to medical aid and access to doctors, even sometimes, exceptional access to doctors. And when people like that are dying, you just have to think about what is happening in the rest of the country, where people who don't have those privileges, and they are so much worse off. And, I don't know if we remember, we maybe don't want to remember the situation, how it was in New York, where there were they were, requisitioning food trucks that were refrigerated to keep bodies refrigerated until they could find crematoriums. And it's the same situation, but magnified maybe 100,000 times. There are no crematoriums where you can take, hospitals, people are sharing beds so that they can share an oxygen concentrator. And luckily this week we seem to have hit a peak and the numbers are starting to drop a little bit. But the problem also is that the numbers, which are quite horrific that we see in the press, are not the real numbers. The actual numbers are maybe 4 or 5 times what we see. So when they say 350,000 people have died, it's actually closer to 2 million that are, dying in that moment. So the country cannot handle it. Well, what is incredible, and you see this over and over again, is that there is always that section of humanity that just steps up and says, whatever the government cannot do, whatever the corporates cannot do. There's a whole bunch of nonprofit organizations that have just, stepped in and started to do incredible work. And this particular organization that we are supporting is called Nirman, which means development. And they've been on the ground as an NGO for about 20 years. They're founded by 2 alumni of the same university that I went to, people with great jobs in IBM and in JP Morgan and places like that have just given up their corporate jobs and have just focused entirely on this issue. And what they're doing is that they're raising money to create these 10-bed ICU units in rural hospitals all across India. And, ICU beds are the thing that's most critically needed at the moment. And it's responding to the need of the moment, but an ICU unit in a rural hospital will stay forever. And the benefit is going to be, perpetual. So this is their theory of sustainable development, and they're very feet on the ground. None of them take a salary. Every dollar that is donated goes straight into the project, and they work very closely with the government, because the other thing that happens in countries like India, if you're not working in tandem with the government, then you're not getting a whole lot done. You can only do so much. And so they're in a governmental nonprofit partnership to create these beds. And then one of the other initiatives that they have is to source oxygen concentrators and supply them in homes where people have COVID, so that they don't have to go to hospital, because hospitalization is a huge bill. And sometimes you don't get the hospitalization. And then sometimes you just die of an infection when you recover from COVID. We've had 2 people in my family who've lost their lives because of ancillary infections that float around in hospitals. So, and then the oxygen concentrator can be, sent for a week to one home, and then to another home, and then to another home. So this is a nonprofit that is working with local nonprofits in lots of different small towns in India to loan these, deliver these oxygen concentrators and pick them up and sterilize them and take them. Again, sustainable, because the same oxygen concentrator gets used over and over and over again. You can use it, 25 times before it runs out. And so we're just trying to raise enough money to get some of that critical infrastructure so that people don't feel as helpless as they do. And I want to say, Lay, that we are not the only ones doing it. Everybody that can is doing it, and so grateful. But what I am most grateful for is that when I announced that we were going to stop all programming at Enact and do this, the entire Bay Area, artistic community rallied behind us. And this is not a problem that we're addressing in the Bay Area. This is a faraway problem, but everybody came together, as did you. So thank you so much. I'm just so touched by the amount of solidarity that I see. And I feel very, very blessed to be part of this community. We're just, it just feels so good to be part of a family that cares so much. Yeah. So if you feel like donating a little bit, I have to make my donation plug.
Please do. Please do.
Then, this every.org is a very cool donation platform started by a young Stanford graduate that aggregates all the nonprofits in the US. And if you donate there, you can donate to any nonprofit through this. And then at the end of the year, you get your tax donation certificate and you don't have to worry about it ever again. So it's a very cool company. They do lots of cool stuff. And so we did want to highlight them as well, since they're a new company, Bay Area, startup, Silicon Valley at its best. So so if you can go to our website. There's nothing on our website of more importance than the fundraiser, but you can also go to every.org at Enact/Nirman. So yeah. We're hoping that we'll be able to. We have a very generous set of friends who've pledged $50,000 to match the $50,000 that we're trying to raise. So we'll be able to send $100,000, which is a substantial amount of money to create, ICU beds in hospitals. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I just want to say I'm really sorry for your loss, and for the losses that I know so many people are suffering. But yeah, I mean, I think this is just such a beautiful response that you've had to that, right? To find a way to help the people that you can help. So, so I think that's really admirable, and I'm happy that we're able to, do a little bit to help you with that.
Thank you so much.
But tell me, so tell us a little about the Artists for Aid event itself, right? Because you're raising money, people can give right now, but come June 5th, you're having a huge event, right, as part of this?
So we launched the fundraiser last week, and it's kind of a soft launch. We're pushing it, but what we're going to do is on Saturday morning, not tomorrow, but June 5th, from 7 a.m. Pacific time to 1 p.m. Pacific time, we are going to run 6 hours of programming that comes from a lot of incredible artists in the Bay Area, but also from India and from New York and London. People, all of our partners and people that we've worked with in the last 10 years have all stepped up. And some people that we don't even know have, sent stuff in. So we have music, we have stand-up comedy, we have monologues, we have short plays, we have dance theater, we have, but interspersed with all of that, we have interviews with the people who are matching our 50K raise, and we also have interviews with the people on the ground who are doing the actual work. And so, we're hoping that will give anybody watching a sense of, we really, what we're doing with the money, why we're doing this, and, juxtaposing the issue, but also coming together in a way that's, that's just so beautifully human. And it didn't take us a long time to get to 6 hours of programming, which is very gratifying. Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put up your little graphic about it for all of you out there. So Saturday, June 5th, starting at 7 a.m., you said, right?
Yes.
And how do people tune in if they want to see it?
Oh, so it's going to be live on our EnActe Facebook page, which is EnActe Arts 8. It's going to be live on our YouTube link. It's going to be live on our Vimeo link. Yes.
I don't have that one queued up.
Vimeo is a hit and miss. I think Facebook and YouTube is fantastic. But I do want to make a request to anybody watching is, have a watch party, share some part of it. and let your friends know that we're doing this so that we can, yeah.
Do you have examples of some of the acts that you're most excited about showing?
Oh, I should have sent you something in. I didn't think about that, but there is an artist by the name of Sheetal Gandhi, who is one of our featured artists in our fall production. She's doing a solo one-woman show of the Sitayana. And she sent in, she's a dancer as well as an actor and a producer. And she is LA-based, and she sent in this dance interpretation of what the American flag means to immigrants.
Wow.
And it's an extremely beautiful contemporary dance piece that is so evocative and so relevant, you know. And it's a little out there, which is kind of nice. That's what art should be. And then we have the story of one woman, you know, just talking about what it's like to be here and so far away when this absolutely horrific crisis is happening back home. And so it's a spoken word poetry piece that is reflective and has some images on the ground realities, which is very poignant. Yeah, we have a piece from the only South Asian dance company to America's Got Talent. They made it to the finals. And so this is a dance company that's an America's Got Talent finalist, and they're doing a contemporary South Asian piece, which is really beautiful as well. And then our resident women writer fellow for the year wrote a Bollywood rap song about patriarchy in Bollywood movies, which is this very tongue-in-cheek, fast-paced, and it is rapped and danced by community members in the Bay Area who are not necessarily actors, but they're just, you know, people who do good in the community. So you're going to see that. That's a fun one. So we have a storytelling piece from a London storyteller who is, he's a collector of grandmother's stories, folk tales. And he's one of UK's most popular storytellers, and he runs the UK Storytellers program. So he's going to tell us a story. And let me see, you know, it's just really lots of very interesting stuff. Yeah. We kind of run the gamut of, we have some Shakespeare in there, which is very nice. A monologue from the play that shall not be named.
But we're not in a theater, right?
We're not in theater. Does the rule relax when you're not in a theater? I don't know. I'm just most superstitious than most. Yeah. It's really nice to see. Yeah. And so many local theater companies, you know, The Dragon, Theatre Works, you know, everybody giving us shout outs, sending pieces of work being done here from so many different communities. And like I said, I could not be more grateful.
Well, I mean, that sounds like an amazing event that, like, anytime you tune in, you would be seeing something different and something really interesting. I love it. It's beautiful.
The pieces are short, so you can be engaged for a short time. You just have to remember to donate before you disengage.
But you don't have to commit your whole 6 hours to watching it, right?
Right. Yeah. In fact, BBC, one of the producers at BBC 3 heard about what we were doing, and they sent an entire radio play that is an hour and a few minutes. And they said, well, if you can't use it in the traditional fundraiser format, use it somehow, but use it to raise some money. So if anybody has any ideas on what I'm to do with that, I've just, maybe just set it up on Audible for a while and say, hey, everybody donate a bit of money and listen to this incredible play. And that is a play done by the BBC in English, based on a story that was written, sort of, I think, in the 8th or 9th century BC. So it's a very old play.
That sounds amazing. You should definitely put that, sell downloads or downloads, donations or something. That sounds great.
Yeah. So, well, I'm looking forward to, after this is all over, putting my feet up and just listening to the play as well. Hopefully we will make our goal. Hopefully, all 100K will go, and then we'll be able to put up at least 10 ICU units. And so that will be good. Yeah.
That sounds great. Let me just real quickly, for those of you who are watching, for anyone who's joining us just now, as a reminder, you're watching Teatro Vision's La Hora del Mitote, and I'm here with Vinita Sud Belani from EnActe Arts, which is a performing arts organization that tells South Asian stories and puts them in a global context. But right now we're talking about they've paused all their regular programs to raise funds to help address the COVID health crisis in India with this Artists for Aid fundraiser. And again, as a reminder out there, if you have questions or if you want to make comments, please always feel free to do so. We love to hear from you, and you can just put that in the comments on Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you're watching. We invite your input. For instance, we have Trami out there. Hi, thank you for watching. It's good to see you virtually here. And thank you for being here and watching La Hora del Mitote. And so, if anyone else out there has questions or wants to give us a wave, please do so. So, I mean, I'm so, I'm just astounded by the breadth of these things that you're talking, these artists and these organizations that have contributed to this event. How did you make that all happen? How did you find all these organizations? Not just here in the Bay Area, but all around the world, who want to be a part of this and want to participate in that. How did you manage to do that?
I do have to say that it's probably the result of something in our DNA as an organization that we did from day one, which is that we are a very, very collaborative theater company. And almost everything that we do is in collaboration with at least one other company, if not two. And we are also presenting organizations, so we do present, other people's work, especially work from the UK, from South Asia. We're also somewhat of a traveling theater company. Several of our plays travel. We've shown plays in Texas, in Boston, in Seattle, and we have presenting partners there that usually produce their own work. So almost everything that we are seeing is something sent by someone who has, 90% of what we're seeing is something that has been sent by someone who has partnered with us. And then there is stuff coming from people who we're talking about partnering with or wanting to partner with. And then, the rest is just very good souls sharing their art with us. So, the thing about the pandemic performance paradigm was that since everything went virtual, there were no geographic barriers anymore, right? You'd be in the same room no matter whether you were sitting in Dubai or Auckland in New Zealand or London. And so the programming that we did in the pandemic just like any other performance-based organization, we started to get audiences from many different places. And so spreading the word about the fundraiser also has been easy because everybody's tuned in at a global level. And we did engage with a lot of people in the pandemic, just even if it was just a conversation. We do a similar conversation series as you. We are less creative about the name. We just call it In Conversation.
La Hora del Mitote just means like the hour of chit chat. I don't know that it's actually more. I don't know that it's more creative than yours, actually.
So the full title is In Conversation at the Nexus of Art and Activism. So we do a lot of conversations with people who are using art to make an impact in the community as a social tool. And so really that's what the conversations are about. And so we had so many of those conversations in the last 15 months, people that we want to work with, people who want to engage with us, people who have a curiosity about US audiences and their interaction and appetite for South Asian stories. And so goodwill, if I may call it that. Yeah, and just becoming known as, the artist community, even in the Bay Area, has gotten closer because, City Lights did that fundraiser in the beginning, and then we've been having these monthly conversations, and really in adversity, art matters. And it just shrinks. Yeah, really, Trami, it's the silver lining to, the clouds that have beset us.
Yeah, you're talking about a couple different benefits to the shutdown, right? Because there's absolutely, I feel like a lot of us have had an opportunity to get closer and to collaborate in new ways that we wouldn't have done if this hadn't happened, because we were all doing our own things. But also, as you say, it gives you access to audiences and communities that you just don't have access to for a live performance. We certainly have seen an increase in people watching from all around the country, or from Mexico, or from other countries in Latin America, right? In the same way that I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
And I want to say too, I think that EnActe Arts has done just a really impressive job of distant collaborations. I've seen some of the stuff that you have done since the pandemic, and I don't know if you want to describe some of these, but I've seen you do performances where you have an artist in the Bay Area performing with an artist who is in India.
Yes.
And I think that is such a smart and brave way to do that, you respond really well.
And
that's what it's brave, right? It's brave because it isn't risky and
the old British adage which says, start as you mean to go on. I started by jumping in feet first into a job and an industry that I knew absolutely nothing about. So I continue to do that on a daily basis. I must do at least 60 things that I've never done before and have no idea how to do. And so we did this Zoom play, which, we're kind of batting ideas around. And we did this Zoom play, our very first Zoom play, which is an epistolary play, which is based on the letters that were written between Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi. And Jawaharlal Nehru was the first prime minister of an independent India, and his daughter was the third prime minister. She was also the first woman to lead a democratic country, a democratic nation. And we were, of course, in the throes in the US of, pre-election fever. And there was, some possibilities of female representation coming up from South Asia, if I may say so. And none of that had manifested at that point. It was just very serendipitous that the situation in the US kind of lent itself to what we were doing. And I sound horrendously arrogant when I say that. So, there's this actor in India, Denzel, who has played Nehru once, or maybe not played Nehru once, but he plays characters like that, who grew up, who were idealistic, who were freedom fighters. He actually played Jinnah, who was the founder of Pakistan when, the country was divided into two, and deeply, deeply steeped in the history of British India and everything that led up to partition. And there's a New York-based playwright who wrote a play about the relationship between the father and the daughter. And she said she felt, Lavon Mueller is her name, and she felt compelled to write this play because she said, never in Western history have I seen a father so committed to making his daughter succeed. And so Nehru was a freedom fighter against the British, and he went to jail when his daughter was growing up between the age of 6 and 18. He went to jail, I think, maybe about 60 times. He spent most of his life in jail. And he decided that he was not going to let the fact that he was in jail interfere with his relationship as a father to his daughter. And so they would write letters to each other. And they wrote maybe over 6,000 letters. He would write at least one letter a day, if not more. And so if, I had to read through almost all of the letters in order to do the play. It's a compendium of 3 books about that thick. And so we did a play, webbed it, and then, we asked the people who own the copyright now if they would allow us to use the actual letters. And so there was Denzel in Mumbai, and I was playing Indira. I was here, and we found a director, the only director who knew enough about British Indian history, who we felt could also tweak the script to a Zoom thing. He was in London. And so we would rehearse every day over Zoom. Early days of Zoom, last year in April, we didn't know anything about anything. And we had to make it work. And we learned how to be your own tech person, how far does the green screen have to be, and can you use a Japanese lamp to hang at this angle to create a soft light on your face? And because we were in 3 time zones, somebody was always half asleep. It was either I was at 6 a.m. for me, or it was midnight for Denzel, or it was 2 a.m. for Dish in London. You cannot rehearse a play, if you're doing India, London, US with everybody fully awake. But it turned out to be an incredible play, and we're still playing it, and it got a lot of kudos. And then, of course, as then Kamala Harris got the vice presidential nomination, and it suddenly all started to tie into contemporary politics, because Kamala's grandfather was Nehru's secretary in parliament.
Oh, wow.
And Nehru is the one who told him, if we don't educate our daughters, our country is dead. And he's the one who almost forced Kamala's mother to come here to Berkeley to study. And none of us knew this until, Kamala Harris got the ticket. And so then all this, information started to surface. And so it all just came full circle. And clearly, something was guiding our process. But yeah, we did a lot of crazy things like that. And then we did a new play festival where we made an announcement that we were accepting plays, 45-minute plays on love, life, and laughter in COVID times. And we selected 6 of them, and they're running as a new play festival. They're paused right now for the fundraiser, but we'll be resuming them. And some really incredibly interesting, we're actually currently rehearsing at the rehearsals going on right now. We are rehearsing a play that is about 4 college friends who decide to get on a Zoom call. They haven't seen each other in 20 years. And then lots of things start to come out, who had it off with who, and who's being, who's being examined by the government for bank fraud, and who's playing who, pretending to be something that they're not. And just really, and one of the plays the last one that we will show is called The Body, and it's this really poignant play about this woman who dies, and the son wants to give her a proper traditional burial, and he cannot because there just is no space because the bodies are piled up 3 higher in every space where normally cremations happen. So that was almost prescient in some way, disturbingly so. So really plays that reflect the reality that we're going through. And we had a lot of conversation about, are they going to be relevant once the pandemic is over? And I think for 5 years, we're not going to want to go there at all. And then we're going to, bring the art back and bring those plays back and examine, who we were as a society when we went through something like this. So, yeah.
That's a good question. We've got and Trami has another good question, which is, what do you anticipate will happen now we're opening up? Will people tune in less? I don't know if you're planning, how much virtual programming you're still planning to do. It's certainly something that we're talking about because there's a lot of, as we were saying, there have been some benefits in terms of collaboration with other artists and terms of audiences who are not here in our physical spaces with us. So yeah, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? And what are your thoughts on what EnActe Arts will be doing with things starting to...
We've decided to play really, really safe. And I think part of the decision is because we don't actually have a space that's sitting empty. We perform in a lot of spaces and in a lot of cities. So we have decided that until December of this year, we are not going to do any live productions. However, we have a conservatory program, which is a revision of the Jungle Book, which we will be filming, and we'll be filming that. We postponed the filming until everything opened up so we could have actors in the same room, especially children. We will be having a new play festival in which we will be doing stage reads in September, in the 3rd week of September. And we will be doing smaller, we're actually doing something quite interesting. We're doing bespoke staged readings at people's homes where, they're just inviting 30, 40 of their friends, and we're just sitting in their living room and doing a stage read for them and bringing theater into people's homes because that's where they feel safe. And I don't want to have to, I think there will be a lot of interest in the return to physical theater. We're not going to be part of it until December. I also need to take some time off to visit my parents who were both sick and in ICU and thankfully are okay. So, we all do. Everybody at EnActe has to step away and take care of family. And so we are giving ourselves time to breathe after the craziness of always having to reinvent ourselves every day to stay in, relevant in this new reality. But I do want to say that I think the world has changed irrevocably for presentation of art. I don't think we'll ever go back to just purely physical theater or any kind of performance. At the very least, it'll be live streamed, or it might be interactive. There could be a person on stage who is acting through Zoom in a physical space. I mean, the possibilities have just opened up incredibly. I mean, just the play that I was talking about, it's very possible that we put Denzel on a Zoom camera and we perform the play live where I'm the live actor here and he's on Zoom. And then in India, he would be the live actor and I would be on Zoom. And it would be such a fascinating interaction. So I think we'll all have to really, get our creative energy into creating this fascinating new paradigm. Just use technology to its fullest and don't let the borders close. I think that's what we're aiming for. Don't let the borders close.
Hey, that's a really good way of putting it because there's two sides of it, right? We as artists have to still be willing to be trying these things.
Yes.
And we need audiences who still want to engage in this way through a screen, even after they have the option, to go back to being in person.
But I mean, you think of a family with young kids, how many times are they able to afford to go to the theater if they have to get a babysitter every time? And if they have the option of seeing a live stream performance, it means they don't miss out. And instead of going to the theater 3 times a year, maybe they can go 10 times a year, and I think I'm very gung-ho on that theory.
It's a really good point. And we've found, I think that's really related. We've found we've been able to engage a lot more classes and students during the pandemic because we're offering on-demand access both to the shows we're doing now and for educators to some of our past shows. And I think it's the same thing, right? It might not be the ideal of bringing your students to a theater, but a lot more schools can do it if you don't have to get a bus and get everybody's permission slip and take everybody to a physical space. So, yeah, I mean, there are, I think, a lot of reasons to keep pursuing ways of doing it, virtual ways of engaging, even after that's not our only choice.
May I ask you to come back to the fundraiser just for a moment and put the image back again so we can remind people?
Yes, of course. Absolutely. Get back to it. Yeah, there you go. And again, for those of you out there watching, I do encourage you to please tune in on June 5th, because it does sound like an amazing event. And I'm going to put up the YouTube and Facebook links again for a second. So this is where you can tune in 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. on June 5th if you want to watch this amazing event. And also, of course, I would encourage all of you to donate. And as a reminder, people who donate here, their gifts are going to be matched 1-to-1, right? So anyone who donates,
matched 1-to-1. If your company does gift matching, we accept that too, and it's all tax deductible. And every dollar would make a significant difference, So yeah. I'm curious to know how you see the world now that we are officially open June 15th.
I mean, it's a good question. I think, we at Teatro Visión are also waiting a little bit to see before we start planning a live event. I mean, we are planning our Dia de Muertos show in October, but we're still not at a point where we have to decide for sure how to do it. Right. So last year, of course, we did our Dia de Muertos show. It was a fully virtual, pre-recorded event. So I think we feel like we have, maybe it's a little bit of a luxury because that would be our next major performance, wouldn't be till October. We have a little bit of time to see how things continue to go and how audiences are, respond to going back to in-person events at other spaces. I mean, certainly, I think, as I've been saying, while there are, I think all of us appreciate the power of being in community in the same space together.
Yeah.
And, I want very much to get back to where that feels like a safe thing to do.
Yeah.
But as we've been saying, we've learned a lot in the past year, and I think it's really important that we don't lose what we've gained, which is all these things about audiences and artists and people not having to be right next to each other in order to be able to talk to one another and see each other and work together and understand each other. So I think those are the really important conversations that we're having right now, that certainly it sounds like you're having right now, right? That what's the balance between those two things, you know, between what we loved about what theater was before and what we have come to appreciate about the way theater had to be the past year.
Yeah. I was very fond of saying that theater is the only art form that you cannot do alone. You know, you can sing for yourself, you can dance for yourself, you can paint for yourself. But theater demands at least one person to watch what you're doing at the very least, or someone to do it with. And so I think it was the biggest shock to the theater community that everything locked down, because theater is people feeding off other people's energy in very real time. And so we've kind of, you know, now in this pandemic era, pushed the boundary of what theater might be to something cinematic and, you know, sort of, but I think that everybody in the theater space is just dying to go back and act with another actor in the same space and feed off of their energy and have at least two people in the room laugh or sigh or cry. Or even talk show hosts are feeling, you know, I mean, that's obviously a form of theater as well. It's a form of storytelling, and they are feeling, you know, the need to have somebody laugh at a joke, stand-up comedians, you know, storytellers. Everybody wants a physical presence, but I think that for the people who could not make it into the physical space, for them to have the opportunity to nevertheless participate is a tool that's been granted to us that we shouldn't take lightly, I think. Yeah, because, yeah. And then the intersection of theater and cinema, you know, we've all encountered it now. And so, yeah. One of the best pieces of Zoom theater that I watched in the pandemic was this great British show where this guy is, you know, he's sitting in his room in his office, and there's a whole bunch of objects around him. He's trying to piece together how a murder happened. And so it's him talking about this whole, you know, he's a detective talking about this. And then there's this whole other B-roll where they show, you know, going down the street and where the murder happened, and then the bloodstain on the carpet and everything. It was fascinating. It was just, you know, and I kept asking myself, is that a movie? Is that theater? Is that, you know, what is it? We've now coined a term at EnActe that we are going to be using for work like this. We call it the third space. And I think it's a very exciting space, but I think a lot of things are falling into that third space. That is, you know, the intersection of film and theater.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's a really good point. I think that, yeah, that's something we've been talking about as well. You know, that these things, it's not exactly theater. It's not exactly film, but
yeah. It's a third space. I'm hoping the term will pick up. Yeah. There used to be a company called Cineplay, which was, you know, doing exactly what ended up becoming Zoom plays. They were filming plays on stage cinematically and then presenting them, you know, as for digital consumption. And I guess that was, yeah, but it was not a model that caught on very well. But I feel like that's what we've been doing now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cine plays. But the name is taken, so I'm staying with third space.
I like third space better. It's more poetic or something.
Yeah, so you and I, we should do some third space stuff.
There you go. If we, like I said, we've all learned to collaborate better, I think. So yeah, that's another thing we shouldn't lose once we can go back to doing in-person events, right? That willingness to collaborate and that openness to helping each other.
I am so glad that we managed to achieve that. You know, it was the best thing to come out of the pandemic. And like I said, I'm so deeply grateful to be part of the family. Yeah. It's scary business running a theater company.
Tell me about it.
I don't need to tell you. You already know. Very scary business. Just so nice to have so many other hands to hold and say, oh, so you have the same challenge. Great. We'll overcome it together. Yeah. So next year, are you going to go like fully physical and then do something? You don't know yet.
I mean, I don't know. I it's hard to say, right? Without it's hard to say. I don't want to lose the reach that we've been working to have, with the digital allows for sure. But yeah, what exactly that's going to look like, I gave up trying to predict what things were going to look like a year ago. So.
Yeah, we stopped predicting. We just said, oh, this is what's happening. Hurry up, do something about it before the paradigm changes. Yeah. But I have to talk to you about a wonderful play that's on my table with 2 women as central characters, one Hispanic and one Indian. So,
well, yeah, let's talk.
We'll talk about that next. Yes.
Although right now, I think we are almost out of time, but we will have to talk about that later. But I want to give you in the last minute here, another minute to say whatever you want to say to remind everybody about your Artists for Aid fundraiser, and also just about how people can stay in touch with EnActe Arts or learn more.
We would really, really, really like to welcome everybody to come and be part of the EnActe family in some way. Come and watch something that we do. Watch it from the comfort of your living room, or come and actually watch a show when we open up. We are at enact.org, enacte.org. Which actually is on act, which in French means in action, which we constantly are, just like any other theater company. And if you are, feeling so gracious as to help the people in India go through, find some relief through this COVID crisis, please take a moment to stop at our website and make a small donation. As I said a little earlier, every dollar will make a very significant difference. $1 translates to 75 rupees, and 75 rupees will go a long way in helping create medical assistance, which is the most critical need. And every dollar that you give will be matched by $1 by the Friends of EnActe, and it will be tax deductible. And it will go, as soon as you donate it, it will go straight into the program. We're not waiting until we hit a certain mark or anything. So if you do find a moment to donate, I want to thank you in advance. I want to thank you, Lei, and I'm so delighted to have this time to sit down and talk with you, and thank you for supporting us in what we're doing. It feels wonderful.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be here and talk to me tonight.
Yeah.
And
certainly my pleasure and my honor and my privilege.
And thank you all to everyone out there who was watching. As always, it is lovely to be here, with you, talking with wonderful people like Vinita. And we're here every Friday at 7 on our Facebook and our YouTube. So hopefully I will see you all next week. And until then, everybody be well and have a good night. And thank you so much for being here with us.